Good evening. The League of Women Voters of the Grafton, Shrewsbury area welcomes you to the 2022 Candidates Night. The League of Women Voters is dedicated to encouraging citizen participation in government and providing information to voters so that they can make educated decisions. The League of Women Voters does not support or oppose political parties or candidates. We sponsor this event so that the voters of Shrewsbury can make informed and thoughtful decisions when they vote in the town election on Tuesday, May 3rd. This forum is being broadcast live on Shrewsbury Media Connection, Facebook Live, channels 28 and 328, and will be repeated throughout the week. It will be also available on YouTube under the Shrewsbury Media Connection. If you haven't silenced your cell phones, don't go ahead. I want to introduce our moderator, Joshua Smith. The League seeks to have impartial moderators and usually has a moderator from another town. Mr. Smith is the town moderator in Barry and is a director in the Massachusetts Moderators Association. He has also developed a free website, mytowngovernment.org, that small towns can use to post their public meetings on. Thank you. Mr. Smith?
Good evening, everybody. So each candidates forum is going to be about an hour. We're going to start with the Board of Selectmen race. There's 3 candidates for this office, and there are 2 open seats. The Selectmen serve a 3-year term. The candidates that we're going to be meeting tonight are Michelle Conlin, John Samia, and Rajesh Uppalapati, or Raj Up. The candidates are going to speak in alphabetical order, and it's going to rotate. So for the opening statement, Michelle will speak first, and then John, and then Raj. And for the first question, John, and then Raj, and then Michelle. And we'll do it like that. Each candidate is going to have a 3-minute opening statement. They're going to answer 3 questions, 1 that was prepared by the League and already provided to them, 2 from the audience. I presume you have cards and you're filling those in, and you're going to give them to the nice young lady who just spoke so they can pick the ones that we're going to ask. I'll be presenting the questions. And then after the questions, there'll be a 1-minute closing statement. Each candidate is going to have 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer each question. There will be no rebuttals unless I think that there needs to be one. Each candidate will answer each question. There will be no questions directed at only one candidate. Kathleen is our timer, seated there in the front row. We'll hold up signs showing the time left when candidates must stop speaking. We're on a tight schedule. We need the candidates' cooperation in following the time limits. The 2 questions from the audience are going to be read by me. Yeah, we kind of already covered that. There's also pink and orange cards. The blue and green are for the Selectmen race. The pink and orange cards are for the school committee race, which is going to have another event just like this as soon as this one ends. Our goal this evening is to have a fair, respectful, informative, and inclusive forum. No personal attacks from candidates or the audience will be permitted. No audience campaigning is allowed. Please hold your applause until the end of the forum. So that's all the ground rules. Any questions? Okay, we're going to start with our 3-minute opening statements. Is my timekeeper ready? Okay, Michelle.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Michelle Conlin. I am a community advocate and volunteer, and I'm deeply committed to serving the community that I love. I first moved to Shrewsbury in 2006, where my husband John and I are raising our 3 boys that are 10, 8, and 5. I have been involved in critical projects in our community for our schools, our public safety, and social services. I have been a town meeting member since 2018, and I recently served as campaign chairperson for the ballot committee, leading a grassroots effort advocating for the passage of an operational override to ensure critical funding for Shrewsbury's municipal and education budgets. I serve on the board of directors at Shrewsbury Youth and Family Services, and I have been PTO president at First Parker Road and now Beale School since 2015, and I have been a member of the Beale School Council for the last 5 years. Other activities I'm involved in include Cub Scouts, and I was a former long-term volunteer for the Blackstone River Watershed Association before my children were born, and I just love our community. I've always felt a deep personal obligation to be part of what I want to see in our community. If I am to be elected as selectman, my priorities include government that is transparent, open, and accessible, advocating for compassionate services that include tax relief for seniors, to better support social services to meet contemporary needs for all, and to make sure that Shrewsbury remains a place where people can live, work, and retire happily. It is critical that we grow our town's economic base, that we improve our infrastructure by investing in our water resources, roads, parks, trails, and open space, and reduce our town's carbon footprint, and that we support strong schools and municipal services that are critical to maintaining the quality of life that we enjoy in our community. I love this town, and I feel that when you love something, you fight for it, and you work for it. And I promise that if I am elected selectman, I will work for every one of you. I think everyone's perspectives are important in our community and need to be heard and realized, and that everyone can love and trust our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is John.
Good evening. My name is John Samia, and I'm running for re-election to the Board of Selectmen. I grew up in Shrewsbury and am a proud graduate of Shrewsbury High School. I have my undergraduate degree in economics from UMass Amherst and my law degree from the Boston University School of Law. In between college and law school, I worked for General Electric and graduated from its rigorous financial management training program. For over 23 years, I have been a corporate lawyer and currently serve as Vice President and General Counsel at American Superconductor Corporation. I'm responsible for the legal, human resources, and U.S. facilities organizations and relied upon daily to provide solutions to a wide variety of complex business and legal issues. It has been an honor to represent the town of Shrewsbury on the Board of Selectmen since being elected in May 2019. Prior to becoming a selectman, I served 3 terms on the school committee and have served as a town meeting member for more than 12 years. Together, we have made important progress over the past 3 years despite facing unprecedented challenges. We have adopted strategic goals for the town, made substantial progress in improving water quality, and made significant investments in public safety. We developed a long-term financial model that has helped the town navigate through the economic perils of the pandemic. As a result of the board's advocacy and with strong community support for additional resources, the town's financial position is currently strong. Finally, we also recently started 2 very important initiatives. First, the Shrewsbury 2030 Strategic Plan, our community-focused, long-term strategic planning initiative. Second, the board has engaged a consultant to start next month to help review and potentially act upon many of the recommendations of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force, which the board established in October 2020. While we continue to make progress, our town faces several challenges, including the ability to meet the needs of a growing and diverse community, traffic safety and flow, and meeting the mental health and well-being needs of town residents. I have the proven leadership skills and experience to help solve these challenges. I am running for re-election to the Board of Selectmen to continue the work of making a great town an even better community for all residents to live, work, and raise a family, and seek to focus on the following goals. Continue to maintain clear and open communication with all Shrewsbury residents, work with town officials and residents to create and implement the Shrewsbury 2030 Strategic Plan, increase economic development and the commercial tax base, invest in public safety and infrastructure, including to improve water quality and address traffic issues, support our senior community, including real estate tax relief for seniors in need, and advocate strongly for the continued excellence of our public schools. I believe that my experience on the board and other town government roles, together with my legal and financial experience, will allow me to continue to make a positive impact on the board and our community, and I respectfully ask for your vote on Tuesday, May 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you. And Raj.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity. It is an honor and a privilege to be here today. I'm very excited to announce my candidacy for the Shrewsbury Board of Selectmen. My name is Rajesh Uppalapati, Raj Upp. As some of you have known me as the only person on this platform who protested against the Beale School deal. I'm a Harvard graduate in management with 20 plus years of experience in leadership and management roles. I'm also the founder and CEO of an IT company. My wife and I have two lovely girls. We made Shrewsbury our home for its low tax rates, good schools, diversity, and it being a very safe town. Philanthropy is an innate part of my nature. Hence, I dedicate a lot of my time for volunteer activities. I'm a part of the Beale School Board and PTO. During the pandemic, I drove a mass donation campaign as well as a food program at the high school to protect the first responders as well as to provide for the needy children. I'm part of the Citizens Climate Lobby for Central Massachusetts, a nonprofit organization working to create a livable world by influencing climate policy. An active member of the Thai Boston startup group that focuses on fostering an environment for new entrepreneurs to grow. I volunteer at the Worcester Habitat of Humanity, where we help build homes for the needy. With all these experiences under my belt, and based on recent events, like the property tax increase that's affecting everyone, especially the seniors, the water quality issues, persistent, overcrowding of schools, and looking at how the town has been run and administered in the last few years, I felt a need to step up and bring a fresh perspective as an outside voice to the present group of selectmen for the town of Shrewsbury. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now going to begin our Q&A period. There are going to be 3 questions. Each candidate will have 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer. Your timekeeper will be ready for you. The first question will go to John. Is there a particular issue that motivates you to run for a seat on the Board of Selectmen?
An important issue that motivates me to run for the Board of Selectmen is to address how we can better meet the needs of a growing and diverse community. Our 2020 census data shows that over the last 10 years, our population has increased by 7.6%. We are more diverse than in the past, and population for persons over 65 has increased 24%. The changing nature of our town requires us to recognize the needs of our diverse citizenry. We need to support the social, economic, and security needs of seniors and address food insecurity, mental health issues, and traffic issues. Our residents' preferences are changing as we see a growing demand for open space, walkability, and potentially a multi-generational center. Meanwhile, we also need to educate our children, keep our residents safe, and provide daily life amenities. Successfully being able to meet the needs of our community requires getting diverse perspectives and developing a strategic plan that will serve as a roadmap for our town to prioritize initiatives, resources, and goals over the coming years. We recently started the Shrewsbury 2030 Strategic Plan, our community-focused long-term strategic planning initiative. A vital component of this initiative is to actively engage with as many residents as possible to ensure that we align town government and limited financial resources with the priorities of our residents. I believe that implementing the Shrewsbury 2030 Strategic Plan is vital to the long-term success of our community and will foster a community in which all residents can thrive. I believe that my continued service on the board will help make this important strategic undertaking a reality. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to ask the same question of Raj. Is there a particular issue that motivates you to run for a seat on the Board of Selectmen?
The Beale School deal, where the 4 acres of land was sold for $250,000, and the fact that 55 new apartments are going to be built prompted me to question as to how such decisions were made, because when we go to pay our property taxes, our half-acre lots with the property in it is assessed at a much higher value. In addition, more resources like water, schools, infrastructure, etc. would be needed to support the new apartments that are going to come up around town. Based on my research, we spend around $13,000 per kid to put them to school. And there will be at least 12 school-going kids in the 55 apartments. And the revenue of $150,000 that we are expecting to gain from these apartments will be nullified starting the very first year based on the number of kids. Budget reports show the cash flow is just 1.6%, which is very low. Hence, we should expect taxes to increase with the 500+ apartments being built around town. This issue and my volunteering spirit has been the motivating force for running for this position. My goal is to serve the town to the best of my ability, keeping in mind the needs of the residents as a focal point of my decision making. Thank you.
Thank you. No, please hold your applause till the end. And finally, Michelle, is there a particular issue that motivates you to run for a seat on the Board of Selectmen?
Thank you. I am running for Selectmen because I'm passionate about ensuring that Shrewsbury remains a wonderful place for people to live, work, raise their families, and retire happily, and to afford to be able to do so. Over the last few years, I have advocated for some projects that I felt were absolutely critical for our community to succeed. And being acutely aware of the impact that these changes in our tax rate have on families and low-income members of our community and our seniors, I felt an obligation to step up and be part of the decision-making process that brings about these changes in the community. I think it's critical that we carefully plan out the future of our community, looking at infrastructure improvements, our public buildings, and our public services, and plan them and act on that plan in a way to have minimal impact on taxpayers. We have, when I was working with the override last year, I received a letter from a woman in Shrewsbury who has lived here for nearly 70 years, and she was recently widowed, and she said, I just can't afford this override. I'm sorry, I can't support it. And I found her information, and I called her, and I asked her if she was aware of tax relief options that we have in our community for seniors. She qualified for these tax relief options, and she had no idea that they were available to her. And that was a moment that stuck with me. And I led her to the assessor's office and instructed her on how she could go about getting these these relief options available to her. And that moment just absolutely stuck with me, and I felt it critical to step up and make sure that this information is available to residents in our community that are in need. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. I have our first question from the audience. Raj, you're going to give the first answer. The question is, what benefits would you like to extend to seniors, and how do you plan to achieve this?
Thank you for the question. Giving senior tax relief was the #1 priority as a part of my campaign. I'm proposing to double the tax relief for veterans, seniors, and disabled to $2,000. It's critical that the town avail itself all the federal funding, federal programs, especially at this point when residents are suffering from high fuel costs, excessive food costs, general inflation at the highest level since the last 40 years. There's no question that our residents need assistance, especially the seniors. One of the ways to do this would be using the ARPA money. I know Northborough, as a town, has come up with an option to put this to vote, to make sure that the ARPA money is going towards in the right direction. So we could do something similar to this. Now, the other program that I'm proposing is to start a buddy program for the seniors to increase civic participation among general population here. We need to build a platform to take care of each other, to match school-going kids who like to volunteer, to help seniors with some of the tasks, such as snow cleaning, yard work, bus services to hospitals, groceries, on a personal basis. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question to Michelle. What benefits would you like to extend to seniors, and how do you plan to achieve that?
Thank you. I think it's critical that we identify and adopt tax relief options for seniors and increasing the affordable housing stock in our community. We currently have limited resources for seniors that would like to retire in place or retire within our community. Affordable housing tends to have a multi-year wait list, and seniors that live in our community are not necessarily prioritized on those lists. If we as a community make strategic investments in affordable housing, I think that is critical. There are ways that we can increase our tax relief options for seniors. The town of Hopkinton has a tax relief fund that is managed by the town that is based on donations. I believe a similar proposal is on our town warrant for the May town election, which I will absolutely be supporting. I think it's important that we modernize and invest in our town's social services. We can creatively use existing spaces to offer increased programming for seniors. We have, last year with the COVID-19 pandemic, when vaccines became available for seniors, there was no option within our community for seniors to go and get those vaccines. We have a regionalized public health program, and they were required to travel to Worcester, which I know many seniors found problematic. I think we need to carefully assess the options that we have for seniors in our community. We need to increase programming at the senior center. We need to make health and social services more readily available for all seniors in our community.
Thank you. And finally, John, the same question to you. What benefits would you like to extend to seniors, and how do you plan to achieve that?
Sure. When we passed the override, the board recognized it would be difficult for those on fixed incomes to afford the additional tax. And we pledged at the time to seek opportunities to get tax relief. The first thing we did in fiscal year 22 was we supplanted some of the tax dollars using stimulus dollars, which resulted in about a savings of $100 for the average taxpayer. In fiscal year 23, there are actually several warrant articles going in front of this year's annual meeting related to tax relief for seniors, as well as those disabled and other qualifying categories based on income and asset tests. Those are on the warrant article this year where the amounts are going to be increased, and that is the proposals in front of town meeting. In addition to the one that Michelle had just talked about, there's another category that's similar to what we have in town for scholarships, where individuals can elect to donate by checking off their tax bill or their excise tax bill and donate money as well to a fund to help people with tax relief. So that's another area that we felt to be very important and put on this year's annual meeting warrant to follow through with what we'd say. So tax relief's one area. Another area is we know that the pandemic was very difficult, particularly on those who were aging in place. We have over 8,000 seniors in town. As I mentioned earlier, the senior population increased by 24% over the last 10 years. We've also provided ARPA funds to Shrewsbury Youth and Family Services to assist those in the community that require additional resources. Thank you.
Thank you. The second question, I was handed 3 questions, but we're only going to do 2 questions. Just want me to pick one? Okay. Taxation is always a contentious topic. How do you balance the tax burden with the needs for town services? Michelle is going to start this one.
Sure, thank you. As I mentioned earlier, I have advocated for some changes in our community that I felt were absolutely critical projects to happen to maintain the level of service that we all need to see in our community. I take that very seriously. I come from a blue-collar family. Neither one of my parents went to college. I have lived the experience of families that don't have limitless resources. And I think it's absolutely critical that as a community, we don't wait until we're reacting to a crisis to do something about it. I think that it is critical that we look to our future, and instead of being a reactive community, that we plan ahead and we lay out the needs of our community, look 5 to 10 to 15 to 20 years into our future, and look at where we'll need to make investments in our community for our residents, and plan those out in a way to have a minimal impact on taxpayers without sacrificing the services that are so critical to the quality of life that we have here. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question to John. Taxation is always a contentious topic. How do you balance the tax burden with the needs for the town services?
Sure. There's no doubt that no one likes to pay taxes, right? The question comes down to we need to balance being able to deliver the type of services that our community wants and expects with all of the needs of our residents. One of the important ways to move forward with this, because we do have limited resources of the strategic plan, we need to reach out, engage with the community, and figure out where our priorities are, because we can't go back to our residents year in and year out for additional resources. In connection with this override, we committed not to go back to residents for at least 4 years. Through prudent fiscal management, we're already up to 5 years. But the important thing, I think, going forward is to expand our commercial tax base so we're less reliant on residents, as well as having a strategic plan where there are compromises that will have to be had, but will really lay out a strategic framework and path for us to meet the goals that our residents expect going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Raj, taxation is always a contentious topic. How do you balance the tax burden with the needs for town services?
Well, I would strive to bring economic development to the town by reaching out to my contacts in my business circle and initiate public-private partnerships so that the tax override will not happen again, at least in the near future. If not 5, I would like to extend that to 7 years if possible. So when I did my research, I understand that the CIP, the Commercial Industry Property Tax, for Shrewsbury has been very low. We're the lowest in the neighborhood, 11.82, compared to that of the neighboring towns like Westboro, which is at 30.33, 3 times, and Northborough, 26.7, and Marlborough at 29.97. And we have vacant offices throughout town here. So we need to reach out. I will personally reach out to all my contacts who want a satellite office to be located in the greater Boston area. I would love to make these offices have people come back to them again, so that we can solve this problem. And not go for an override whenever we need money. Thank you.
Thank you. We're running a little ahead of schedule, so if it's okay with you, I'm going to go ahead and ask a third question. So, going around robin here, John, you'll be starting this one. Given the changing face of town and a simultaneous decrease in community involvement, what can you do to reach out to our diverse community to encourage participation?
It's a great question. I'll go back to the strategic plan. I think what's very important to determine our future is for voices to be heard. The most critical aspect of a strategic plan to be successful is community involvement, all voices to be heard. The initial part of the plan currently is through stakeholders, folks that are working for the town. The next step is to actively engage with every resident as possible, wherever that is, the ball fields, places of worship, rec centers, wherever that is, so that people know that their future is determined by them. I truly believe that when individuals understand that they're part of the future in our community, that will invigorate them as well to become involved. That, to me, is really number one. I think the other important piece is we work through the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Task Force recommendations and build that into our strategic plan and really have a sense of vibrancy where all feel that they will belong. I think that we'll start to see active engagement and like town meeting where we won't have vacancies, but we'll go back to that time when you had a lot more individuals than there were seats. I think that's a large part of it. People are leading busy lives. But when they know that their voice matters and they see it and who the community is going to become, the involvement will increase. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question to Raj. Given the changing face of town and a simultaneous decrease in community involvement, what can you do to reach out to our diverse community and encourage participation?
Thank you. As I said before, we would be building a platform called the Buddy Program to make sure our younger population, school-going kids who would like to volunteer, help out our seniors. And as a part of the same goal, I would also like to make the town meeting, minutes or the agenda be available on the town website as well as a Facebook page even before the meeting takes place, in advance before the meeting, so that there is transparency around that, and people would like to see what they like to attend. I mean, what they like to listen to in a town meeting. And also, I've noticed that the town meetings are usually 3 hours long. So no one has that kind of time. They're busy with their kids or their jobs. So I would like to take this opportunity to bring upon, small ideas like indexing the meeting. You want to listen to one particular topic that you're interested in. All you need to do is go to that index and go to that timeline and listen to what you want to listen to. So these are some of the ideas that I propose. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Michelle, given the changing face of town, a simultaneous decrease in community involvement, what can you do to reach out to our diverse community to encourage participation?
Thank you. I think it is critical to increase involvement in our community to help develop a sense of pride and belonging and ownership within our community. I have always felt very strongly about making everyone feel welcome and helping to connect people with each other in our community, and that really fosters a sense of pride and belonging. And when people feel like this is their community and they love it and it loves them just as much as they love our community, it encourages people to get involved, to volunteer with our community activities, nonprofits, our schools, and our public programs. Some ways that we can encourage more involvement is to increase our intergenerational programming that we have in our town spaces. We have a new police station coming online that has community spaces available in it. We have a senior center in the center of town. We have a beautiful library. I would love to see our town recreation department and our our council on aging and other community organizations increase the number of programs that are available to members of our community. I think that if we invest as a community in those public programs and improve our public spaces, those will foster a sense of pride and belonging within our community that will increase involvement across a diverse range of ages and all people in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Good news. There's time for a fourth question. Raj, you'll be starting this one. If transparency is the goal for meetings, how can that be achieved?
Thank you. One of my favorite questions. Well, to start with, that is the reason why I'm here. The Beale School deal could have been achieved could have been handled much better. Surprisingly, as we were told, the Beale School, the old Beale School, was not appraised before it was sold. And going on to transparency, I would make every attempt to make sure there is opportunities for residents to talk at every selectmen meeting. There is some time allocated at every selectmen meeting for residents to talk. And then I understand executive sessions are very limited. Make sure executive sessions are very limited. And I would strive to make the executive session notes available as soon as possible on the town website. And I want to be the public voice to bring the public voice to the selectmen. I am happy to vote a no in case of slightest doubt that it is not useful to the residents. I have often seen that most of the decisions that a selectman take are 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question to Michelle. If transparency is the goal for meetings, how can that be achieved?
Absolutely. I think it's really important as a leader in a community to always be available to residents. Anytime that somebody, I pledge if I am to be elected, anytime that anybody would want to connect with me, I would make time to be available for them. They wouldn't have to wait for a meeting to speak with me and have their voice heard. I think that communication in our community has improved significantly over the last few years, but there's always room to improve. I think that our website, our town website, is pretty difficult to navigate. It's hard to find information on there. It is confusing, figuring out how to sign up for alerts and news information from our town. I feel that there's an over-reliance on electronic communication that does not, we're living in modern times and it's convenient, but it doesn't always reach everyone in our community that needs to get that information. So I think that we need to use creative ways to, get that information out to residents. We have, our tax bills that come out and our Cellco bills and things like that. And, leveraging those mailers that are coming out to households within our community to also share news about things that are happening in town. I think there has been some movement in the last few years on accessibility of information and having there was a Citizen's Guide to Budget 101 that came out a few years ago, and I think that was a wonderful resource to help people understand our budget system and how it works in our community, and continuing, things like that where, we're not just communicating with our town, but we're also helping our residents to understand how things work within the municipal government.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And finally, John, if transparency is the goal for meetings, how can that be achieved?
Thank you. I think we're talking about two things. I think it's important to realize that by law, we are transparent. We're subject to the open meeting law. Like tonight, all of our meetings are available on YouTube for your access whenever you want them. So with respect to the Beale transaction, all the way back to 2016 with the town master plan, that has also been open to the public. There were multiple well-attended public forum surveys and hearings, from the master plan through the RFP, through the reuse committee, through the visioning study, through then the reuse committee, through town meeting on August 8th, 2020, when there were 155 people outside of here during the pandemic, and they voted to authorize the Board of Selectmen to sell the property for $1, as long as it was in the best interest of the town. So that was always transparent, and that's what we are. That is required by law. The different thing that we're talking about is communication, and I agree. Matter of fact, we have engaged the Conlin Center with a request for assisting the town assessing its overall communications efforts, starting first with underserved populations, rentals, and then the second part of this engagement will relate to how can the town do better on community engagement. So that's the second part of this. It's on the radar screen. We recognize that, and related to this is a development currently right now for a better website that will also have an app related to it. So these are all, we've heard from residents, and we are looking to have clear communication with all. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the Q&A. We are now going to ask each of the candidates to share a 1-minute closing statement, and because we're rotating the order, Michelle, you're going to be giving the first closing statement.
Thank you all for your time. I've had a wonderful response in our community, and as I've been out talking to residents, it just reminds me why I love this town as much as I do. I think that as citizens, it's absolutely critical where we are a stronger community when we all work together, when we can sit down at a table respectfully, whether we agree or not, and to be able to discuss things in a respectful manner. I feel like it strengthens our community. I love this town. I truly do. I am so committed to serving the community. I have never let no matter how busy my life is, I've never let it slow me down from offering every available moment of my time to this community. And I promise that if you elect me on May 3rd, that I will always fight for every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you. John?
Sure. Thank you. I truly appreciate the opportunity to share my vision for making a great town an even better community for all residents to live, work, and raise a family. Shrewsbury is where I grew up, graduated from its public schools, and chose to raise my family. Since being elected to the Board of Selectmen in May 2019, I have worked effectively with other elected and appointed officials by using my strong financial and budgeting knowledge and practical business experience to advance important initiatives. I proactively seek differing perspectives on issues, have a strong understanding of the complexities of town government, and a proven record of getting things done. I believe that my passion, energy, and experience in the Board of Selectmen and in other town government roles, together with my legal and financial experience, will enable me to continue to make a positive impact on the Board and on our community, and respectfully ask for your vote on Tuesday, May 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Raj.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to present my views. Based on my education, experience in running my own business, with my entrepreneurial network and community-oriented mindset, I believe I bring a unique and out-of-box ideas to serve the community better. One of my top priorities would be to double the tax relief for seniors, as we discussed before. I promise to make the town matters more transparent. And I look at innovative ways to improve the school system and perhaps share resources with the neighboring towns if required for certain programs that do not exist in our schools currently. As an engineer and a problem solver, I believe in execution and not just strategic planning, and the ability to measure ourselves and make improvements based on success metrics. I would strive to bring economic development to the town by reaching out to my contacts, as I already mentioned. I will endeavor to make every public building energy efficient, sustainable, so we can achieve ZEB standards. That would save us a lot of money on the longer run. If you believe Shrewsbury needs a leader who will listen to your voice and put the needs of the town ahead of his own, then I'm your choice. I'm Raj Upp and would be grateful to receive your vote on election day. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank all of our candidates, Michelle Conlin, John Samia, and Raj Upp. Some applause. So thank you to the school, to the selectmen candidates. The school committee candidates will come on up here shortly, and we will resume at 7:30. Thank you. Good evening. I think most of you were here for the selectmen part, so a lot of this is going to seem familiar to you. School committee is the second candidates forum we're going to be having this evening. There's 4 candidates. There are 2 open seats for this office. School committee members serve a 3-year term. The candidates for the office are Erin Boucher, Lindsay Heffernan, Jen Luke, and Sanam Zaer. Unfortunately, Sanam was unable to attend tonight due to a family obligation. She submitted an opening statement, which I will read on her behalf after I cover the rules. The candidates will speak in alphabetical order, which will rotate. For example, for the opening statement, Erin will speak first, and then Lindsay, and then Jen. For the first question, Lindsay will start, then Jen, then Erin, and so on. Each candidate will make a 3-minute opening statement, answer some number of questions, one from the league and some from the audience presented by me, and then we'll make a 1-minute closing statement. Each candidate will have 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer each question, and there will be no rebuttals unless I determine that a second rebuttal is necessary. Each candidate will answer each question. There'll be no questions directed at only one candidate. Kathleen, our timer, is seated in the front row. She will show signs showing the time left when the candidates must stop speaking. Since we're on a tight schedule, we need the candidates' cooperation on following the time limits. The question from the league was sent to the candidates in advance. The 2 from the audience, well, more probably than 2, will be read by me. The audience members were handed pink and orange index cards on their way into the room. If you have a question for the candidates, please pass your cards to the aisle for league volunteers to collect. If you haven't already done so, I have a bunch. Our goal this evening is to have a fair, respectful, informative, and inclusive forum. No personal attacks from candidates or the audience will be permitted. Also, no audience campaigning is allowed. Please hold your applause until the end of the forum. I am now going to read Sanam Zir's statement. Sanam Zir is a local candidate for the school committee who unfortunately is unable to join us tonight. She sincerely regrets not being able to attend, but had an important family obligation she could not reschedule. Sanam grew up in central Massachusetts and has lived here in Shrewsbury for about 5 years. She graduated from the University of Massachusetts with an undergraduate degree in English and journalism, and again with her master's degree in education. She's worked as a tutor for children in long-term hospitalization, a high school English teacher, and an English teacher for English language learners. She currently serves as director of elementary and middle school for a local private school. Within her current role, she works with an administrative team to address parent, teacher, and student concerns, organizes multidisciplinary professional development, initiates and participates in IEP evaluations, manages grant writing and spending, oversees COVID-19 testing and vaccine clinics, and steps into other leadership and support roles within the school community as needed. In addition to her relevant professional experience, she's also volunteered in many capacities within our school district. She served on the school council for both Beale and Spring Street Elementary Schools, on both the Homework Committee and the Redistricting Committee, and on Dr. Sawyer's Coalition for Equity and Anti-Racism. In addition, she volunteers in her children's classrooms in any capacity that arises and engages with district leaders whenever feedback and parent participation is requested. Outside of our schools, Sanam is a current town meeting member and one of the founding members of A Better Shrewsbury, a local advocacy group that seeks to educate and empower members of our local community to engage with their social networks and different levels of our government on issues mostly pertaining to social justice. Sanam wishes to highlight that her main priorities in the district are ensuring the mental and emotional well-being of all students, increasing efforts to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion within the district, and supporting staff members through a rapidly changing educational landscape. Her strong education and volunteering background would make her a useful asset to the school committee, our SPS staff, and our community at large. In addition, she speaks 3 languages, which increases the opportunity for multilingual families to communicate directly with the school committee. She's spoken about all these issues and more, and her answers can be found on the media coverage section of her website, sanamforschoolcommittee.com. She invites anyone to reach out to her anytime with questions and plans to make her answers to the questions asked this evening available as well. She thanks you for your consideration. So there's one opening statement. Let's have 3 more. So our first opening statement will come from Erin Boucher.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this event. My name is Erin Boucher. I have lived in Shrewsbury since 2012 with my husband Andy and our 2 daughters. My older daughter is 15 years old and is a sophomore at Shrewsbury High School. My younger daughter is 13 years old and is a 7th grader at Oak Middle School. I graduated from the College of the Holy Cross in 1992 with a bachelor's in history. I received my law degree from Suffolk University Law School in 1995. I am a partner in the law firm of Morrison Mahoney LLP in their Worcester office, and I specialize in civil litigation. Since moving to Shrewsbury, I've been an active volunteer in both town government and the Shrewsbury Public Schools. I've been a town meeting member since 2014. I was appointed to serve on the Beale School Building Committee in 2016, and I'm also currently a school council member at Shrewsbury High School. Additionally, I am a past co-president of the Spring Street School PTO. I participated in the Mascot Ad Hoc Study Group as a parent representative last year, and I served as a school council member at Oak Middle School from 2018 until 2020. I'm very proud to have been part of the new Beale School Building project, which was completed on time and under budget, even in light of the challenges caused by the pandemic. Working with our town and school officials on the new Beale School was an extremely rewarding experience. As the building committee's work is nearing completion, and with Dr. McGee announcing that he would not be seeking another term on the school committee, I decided that this would be a good time to seek election to the school committee, and I announced my candidacy in January. I believe that my leadership skills, professional background, and my volunteer roles in both the Shrewsbury Public Schools and town government will allow me to make an immediate positive contribution to the school committee. As an attorney, my business acumen, analytical skills, and expertise in negotiation and dispute resolution will be an asset to the role of school committee member. Additionally, my experience evaluating the school budget as a town meeting member and volunteering in the schools in different roles and at different grade levels has provided me with insight into the district's goals and priorities. I was also able to form working relationships with the town manager and the superintendent while serving on the Beale Building Committee, which would help me to hit the ground running if elected to the school committee. Furthermore, as a parent of 2 children in the Shrewsbury Public Schools, I will be able to offer a parent's perspective on the issues the school committee addresses. I'm committed to listening to all viewpoints and to working collaboratively with all stakeholders in order to continue to provide all students with a high-quality education in a cost-effective manner. I respectfully ask for your vote on Tuesday, May 3rd.
Thank you. An opening statement from Lindsay Heffernan.
Thank you. I want to thank also the League of Women Voters for organizing this event, certainly Mr. Smith for moderating, and all of the candidates for stepping forward to run for office in our community, and I know we all care about this community very deeply. I'm running for a re-election to the school committee to help deliver the strong school system that we expect in Shrewsbury. I want to ensure that all students benefit from a high-quality public education, just as I did, that helped launch me into success both educationally and in my career. The past few years have been difficult for the schools. Between the total shutdown in 2020, the hybrid and remote schooling of 2021, and now the lingering impacts of the pandemic as we return to school in 2022. From teachers to parents, to children, to employers, we have all become more aware of the critical importance of the public schools in our local ecosystem. I want to ensure that our schools continue to lead the state in developing responsible and inclusive citizens who embrace and value diverse opinions. I'm proud of my work on the school committee, and I'm proud of the residents who voted to invest in all of our municipal services. I've served on the committee since 2019, in our committee serving on our finance committee as a subcommittee member. I also was the representative to the town's diversity, equity, and inclusion task force, and a liaison to the Special Education Parent Advisory Council. I'm also a current town meeting member and a former Patton School Council member. I'm a practicing lawyer, just like Erin, and started my career working in the juvenile court system, representing children in need throughout Worcester County. I spent 16 years in state government working to improve efficiency and effectiveness in the administration of government services. I'm deeply committed to delivering quality education to children so they can acquire the skills they need to succeed. Personally, I'm a mother of 3 children in the Shrewsbury Public Schools who are 14, 12, and 9 in 3 different schools right now. Like many others, my spouse and I moved to Shrewsbury because of the high-quality schools in this town and because my brother got me to move here. It's been a wonderful decision for our family. I was born in Worcester. I attended Holy Cross and then Brooklyn Law School, and more recently, the Harvard Kennedy School of Government. I'm proud to have attended public schools, which gave me a strong foundation to succeed in my education and my career. Professionally, I direct public policy for the MBTA in Boston, though I began my career, as I said, representing children. I've seen firsthand how exemplary schools can launch children from all backgrounds into a lifetime of professional success. I'm an active volunteer in my church, I'm a dedicated parent, and I'm an advocate for Shrewsbury. Fundamentally, I believe in the power of education to change lives, and I hope that I can continue to serve and that I get your vote on May 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you. And our final opening statement will come from Jen Luke.
Hi, thank you to the League of Women Voters and for everyone for being here tonight. My name is Jen Luke, and I grew up in Franklin, and I was the first person in my family to graduate from college. And I've lived in Shrewsbury for the past 20 years, and I have my undergraduate degree in psychology from the Mass College of Liberal Arts, and I have my master's degree in social work from Simmons College in Boston. During my 2005 and 2006 year, I actually did my master's level internship at Shrewsbury Youth and Family Services, and I have been extremely invested in this community since I've moved here 20 years ago. I have 2 children in the school system. I have a daughter that's in 8th grade, and I have a son that's in the 5th grade. And I have been volunteering in the school system since my oldest was 3 years old. I became president of the Shrewsbury Child Development Committee, which was an organization that had been around for about 40 years, but no one had been running it for several years. And I thought that it would be such a great opportunity to bring something back for young children. So I was president for 5 years, and I made it into a very thriving organization that connected kids and families together and provided low-cost and free activities. When my son entered kindergarten and he aged out of that, I became PTO president at Coolidge, and I had been part of the PTO prior to that. I was PTO president there for 2 years, and when my daughter moved to the middle school, I then became PTO president at Sherwood and Oak Middle, which I continued to be in that role, and I have been president for the last 4 years. Other things that I have also done in the community is there's a program, Girls on the Run, which is an empowerment program that teaches kids how to run 5Ks and also works on their social emotional well-being. It did not exist in Shrewsbury 3 years ago when I brought this program to the town, and it still continues to exist today. So I have also been a social worker for the past 25 years, and my entire career has been working with children and families. I worked at DCF for 10 years. I've done court investigations. I worked in a pediatrician's office, and I'm currently the clinical director of a DYS program in Worcester. I feel like my experience of being involved in the community and volunteering in my children's classrooms and my being a social worker can provide a lot of benefit to the school committee at this time, where I'm really aware of the mental health challenges that kids are facing, which is one of the biggest issues that we are seeing in our community today. I'm hoping to be able to take my expertise in that area and bring it to the school committee, where maybe we can implement some additional mental health things to bring the community together and really help mitigate some of the challenges that our children are facing today. And I would really love your vote on May 3rd. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We're now going to move into the Q&A period. Each candidate will have 1 minute and 30 to answer. The first question is to Lindsay. Is there a particular issue that motivates you to run for a seat on the school committee?
I think from my perspective as a current school committee member, without a doubt, the most pressing issue that we face as a community is addressing the ongoing impacts of the pandemic and what that presents to our students and our entire school system today. We must maintain a focus on assisting our students through our valued staff to make up the educational losses suffered through the disruption in learning over the past 3 years. In addition, we need to continue to assess and ensure that we are adequately responding to the growing mental health needs of the young people in our community. As a parent, it greatly alarms me as I see Facebook posts routinely of parents who are struggling, who can't find what they need, and our schools have become the safety net for our children's mental health. Not all students and families were impacted equally by the pandemic, potentially worsening both educational gaps and limiting connections to positive, pro-social adults in the lives of our youth. Learning of the impact of these losses is going to take us time, and time for our staff to determine and to fully understand, and we must ensure that we have the proper resources going forward to provide meaningful interventions. And this is why I think this issue is going to continue to be with us, sadly, for many more years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question to Jen. Is there a particular issue that motivates you to run for a seat on the school committee?
Yes, as I stated earlier, one of the biggest challenges that we're facing today is mental health with our children. This is starting as young as in elementary school all the way through high school. And it has been an extremely pressing issue, and I think that COVID certainly made the challenges even more and put a spotlight on mental health. And that is what has helped prompt me to run for school committee. I feel like my expertise in the 25 years of working with kids, I'm hoping to be able to take that to the school committee and trying to help with various services and how do we bridge the gap, because children are suffering so greatly and yet they don't have access to the services that they greatly need. We have a wonderful resource in town, the Shrewsbury Youth and Family Services, and they have a partnership with the school system, and it's unfortunately not enough parents, I guess, know about the relationship of SYFS and what SYFS provides to the school system. I would love to be able to take that and help our community to really use those resources and try to find ways of how do we get to these kids so that they don't feel that their depression and their anxiety is so out of control that they don't want to attend school. And we're seeing that the suicide rates are going up so greatly. And we really need to continue to invest in our children and to do what it is that we can to help them feel that they have a connection to others, and that we can try to put the services into place that are greatly needed. Thank you.
Thank you. And Erin, same question to you. Is there a particular issue that motivates you to run for a seat on the school committee?
I was motivated to run for a school committee to help address the challenges faced by the students of Shrewsbury as we emerge from the pandemic. In the early days of the pandemic, in the spring of 2020, the school committee meetings were must-see TV at my house. These meetings, which were convened over new at the time Zoom technology, brought decisions about how the school district was going to navigate remote learning and foster connections between home and school as we shifted from in-person learning to an online format in the matter of weeks. Each meeting brought answers to families' questions in real time and reassurance that the district was working diligently to address students' needs during a very uncertain time. The past 2 years have shown us what a vital role schools play in our society. The school committee, the district leadership team, and the committed teachers and staff of the Shrewsbury Public Schools did an exceptional job navigating the district through the pandemic. As we emerge from the challenges caused by the pandemic, the academic needs as well as the social and emotional needs of the students of Shrewsbury must be thoughtfully examined in order to provide needed support for all students. I am running for school committee because I would like to contribute to this important work.
Thank you. Now we're moving into the questions from the audience. And going first will be Jen. And the question is, how do you think we should handle the fact that we will no longer be able to send students to Assabet for vocational education?
This is actually something that is going to be near and dear to my heart because my son, who's in the 5th grade, has already expressed an interest in wanting a vocational education. And I think that there are several things that possibly we could do. I think that we do need to look into how do we buy into, I guess, a vocational program so that our kids have access to it. If that is not going to be possible, especially within the short term, there may be ways to partner with different, maybe we could partner with a bank and we can have our children be able to go there during some of their time that are in school. Maybe we can partner with different businesses and Selco, for example, where they may be able to provide some education to these children. Find a way to have access to some of the other towns that offer this extremely enriching opportunity for our kids that I feel like is very needed. A vocational education is, it is not as it was when we were growing up many years ago. These children, and it's very much needed in our society today. And I feel that we need to look at how are the other towns making sure that they have access to this education and being able to partner with them so that we can approach Assabet and see how to get into that program, or maybe think about getting together with other towns and maybe we can try and form a vocational education for some of the other towns that don't have access to it as well. Thank you.
Same question to Erin. How do you think we should handle the fact we will no longer be able to send students to Assabet for vocational education?
Given a change in state regulations, vocational technical high schools must now give preference to students who live within their member district communities for admission. Unfortunately, this change in regulations means that there will be very few and possibly no seats for Shrewsbury students at Assabet next year. To address this issue, I will strongly advocate for our district to further partnerships with businesses and higher education to provide opportunities for job shadowing, internships, and dual job skill programs. Finding alternatives to address the needs of students who would benefit from vocational programming will remain a top priority. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Lindsay, how do you think we should handle the fact that we will no longer be able to send students to Assabet for vocational education?
Without a doubt, vocational education is something that we, I think, all value. In our prior years, we were sending somewhere between 100 and 120 students every year to Assabet. Tuition costs there for the district were about $17,000 as compared to $14.3 to educate students in Shrewsbury. And that was well worth it. And that extra dollars and the model of programming at vocational school is fundamentally very different than a public high school. And I have heard some calls that we should replicate that model within our high school. To me, that is untenable and asking something that is not doable for our district. That doesn't mean it's not a problem. And so I propose that there are a couple different things that we need to do. First off, the school committee already voted to reach out to our state delegation because this is a statewide issue. We are most definitely not alone, and there are hundreds of communities that are put into a similar position by the change in admission procedures that were brought about through the Department of Early and Secondary Education. And make no mistake, they were trying to solve a problem. I think they didn't understand the unintended consequences that in their choice of a solution. In the short term, one of the things that I think we need to do while we work with our state partners is to figure out how we can bring more community-based partnerships within the Shrewsbury Public Schools. And so we can lean on, in the next school year, our Assistant Superintendent for Community Partnerships and Wellbeing, who has been serving as an acting principal for the last couple of years, will finally have her full title restored and her position fully funded in our operating budget, to be thinking about how can we bring more community-based partnerships and business partnerships for some kids. Again, I don't think that's going to replicate this, but this is a problem that we're going to need to address at the statewide level as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to our second audience question. This is going to start with Erin. What are your thoughts about the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force recommendations for our schools?
The district created specific goals for fostering a culture of belonging in 2021 and 2022. These goals are engaging families with diverse backgrounds, using data to identify opportunity gaps, and increasing the diversity of staff, and increasing the student's sense of belonging at school. The big goal and the theme of this year has been belonging, fostering a sense of belonging with families, students, and staff, and making that a collective effort. The district is currently working to create a strategic plan for diversity, belonging, equity, and inclusion that will be incorporated into the next district planning cycle. One step that has been taken that will help with students' sense of belonging is the removal of the activity fee at the middle school and the high school for the next school year. Thanks to the community's support of the override, the budget for the next year will allow for the removal of this fee. This will allow students to explore clubs and activities that their parents may not have necessarily wanted to pay for. The addition of the late bus at the middle school and the high school has also been a good step to make after-school activities more accessible for all students. This is so important after 2 years of disrupted learning and social isolation. And the more connected to school that the children feel, the happier they will be. I also believe that the district is attempting to increase the diversity of the applicant pools for professional and leadership positions by promoting ways to adapt search processes, reviewing existing district hiring practices, using new web tools such as I Am Diversity, and implementing new recruitment strategies to include establishing relationships with diverse pre-service teachers at local universities. Jobs are posted on School Spring, which is also a national job database. The HR director for the district, Barb Malone, has also created a team of teachers to participate in teacher diversification and learning community. And I believe all of these efforts will help address these issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Same question to Lindsay. What are your thoughts about the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force recommendations for our schools?
So the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force, I was proud to serve as a member of that task force on behalf of the school committee as a school committee representative. And that task force is 25 members of the community who committed an incredible amount of time and broke ourselves into various subcommittees. The subcommittee I served on was looking at public schools and youth-based supports in the town, so things like libraries and rec programs. And the recommendations that came out of that subcommittee I am incredibly supportive of, and some of those, in addition to a few things that Erin has mentioned, wanted to think about how it is that we ensure that our school systems are welcoming to children and most importantly even to families, and that families feel that they can come and engage, because families are an integral part of education for kids. So different ways to do that. Certainly engagement of PTOs is important to figure out who and how are parents engaging with PTOs. I think we have to think about our language access as Shrewsbury is diversifying, and make sure that all families feel as though they can participate. And that we think about how we do programs such as open houses and other ways to bring families in. Many times the end of school years is when you find the picnic at the end of school. Why don't we move those to the beginning of the school year to bring in and welcome new members? We are also strong advocates in the use of data to understand where our children are. So you could break out some subpopulations. Who at the high school level is engaged in AP classes? What students are receiving special education services, and what kind of services are they receiving? Where are our English language learners engaging in after-school activities? And we have to look critically at each of one of those points to see if there's any disparities. Professional development for staff is a clear ongoing must, and they have an incredible load on their shoulders, our staff, but there will continue to be need to make sure that our staff feel that they are ready and able to engage in important conversations. And most importantly, maybe it's continuing the important work the district has begun about how to diversify our staff such that they represent the changing demographics of our community. So there's a lot of great work in that report. I'd encourage many people and everybody really to read it and take a look.
Thank you. And finally, the same question to Jen. What are your thoughts on the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force recommendations for our schools?
I think it's wonderful that Shrewsbury has recognized that we do have quite a diverse community and that they put together a task force to be able to determine how do we bring our community together and ensure that everyone feels that they're connected. I feel that connection is one of the most important things, and I can say throughout my years of volunteering in the schools and PTO president, we try to, most of our activities that we do are community-based activities to bring everyone together so that people do not feel segregated. And I feel that that's so very important to continue in that way. I think that creating this sense of community and having kids engage with one another and adults engage with one another really helps people to understand more about, what is someone's culture and ethnicity and trying to bridge that gap. I think that it's great that Shrewsbury is recognizing as well that they should increase some of the diversity among the staff so that kids feel that they have someone that they can relate to that may be different than some of the staff and the professionals that have been educating them. And I do feel like Shrewsbury is doing a great job of listening to the community and really finding out what do parents and children want. And I think that the more that parents can get involved and be involved in all aspects, whether it's activities outside or having talking about the things that are happening within the walls of the school. I think that the more that we have people involved, the more that we understand the needs and the more that we can address them.
Thank you. We have time for more questions. So we're going to ask a question, this time starting with Lindsay. Mental health has been a major topic in our media of late. How do you propose to address this challenge in our schools?
Absolutely. I think there's an awful lot to unpack in that question. COVID-19 and the resulting social isolation has clearly exacerbated emotional and mental health challenges for many of our students. When I first ran for school committee in 2019, I sat down with Meg Balsito, one of our assistant superintendents for student services, and one of the things I asked her is, can you share with me, it's publicly available, but I hadn't put my fingers on it, the most recent statewide run youth risk behavior survey done throughout the state and asked anonymous questions of middle and high school students. And at that time, this is back in 2019, well before the pandemic, 1 in 4 Shrewsbury students self-identified that they had suicidal ideations or thoughts. And that was incredibly alarming to me. It's one of the things that motivated me to run and want to get involved. I have a sister-in-law who works in the Acton-Boxborough schools, and if any of you have been paying attention there, they went through a spate of suicides and had about 4 in a couple of years. I don't want that in my community. I don't want that in my neighborhood. I certainly don't want that in my family or for any family in Shrewsbury. So we clearly have an issue that existed before. And as I said, COVID has exacerbated it and made it worse and brought a lot more attention to it. We're seeing higher rates of child hospitalization and suicidal ideation, as I said, and we know that children aren't getting the services that they need. Schools definitely have a critical role to play in identifying the challenges, and as we see students for 6+ hours every single day, one of the things I'm very excited about is that we're looking to implement a uniform risk screening survey so that every child is asked some questions to see, are there any flags here? I am very concerned about us missing kids and kids who could look fine on the surface but at home are really struggling. That's one of the important things that we're going to get to do in our next school year, largely because of the override and having some additional resources that we can say that's an investment that we need to make, in addition to the 7 additional staff people for next school year that are specifically targeting mental health spread throughout our schools. So there's an awful lot of work to do, and I'm excited to continue to work on that issue.
Thank you. Jen, same question to you. Mental health has been a major topic in our media of late. How do you propose to address the challenge in our schools?
Sure. As a social worker for the past 25 years, I am no stranger to mental health. And I have seen such an increase in the last few years. During the pandemic, I worked in a pediatrician's office, and I saw such an increase in depression and anxiety and kids being unable to cope with the feelings that they have. And COVID, as Lindsay said, definitely put a spotlight on mental health even more. And it is really a serious issue that we have to take steps to manage. One of the things that I've actually already done in the community is last month, someone else and we started a mental health roundtable discussion that brings mental health professionals together with parents and other community members to learn more about what services are out there and how do we reduce the stigma of mental health. I think that a lot of adults and kids feel that they can't talk about it because if they go to therapy, well then, that's not seen as a very positive thing. And I think that we need to reduce the stigma so that people feel comfortable being able to talk to professionals in the school, to their parents, which are often the last people to know when kids are going through mental health crises. And I feel like if we can talk about it more and continue to provide those services that are needed, and starting in the elementary school levels, teaching kids how do we manage our feelings, how do we work out problems, how do we communicate with someone else, and can we provide trusted professionals in the school, and maybe not just adjustment counselors, but maybe some teachers and other adults that children can go to so that they feel comfortable being able to talk about, what they are feeling so that we can better serve. And just the last quick thing is really continuing to make sure that we use the partnership with Shrewsbury Youth and Family Services and that parents are really aware of that program of not only they do crisis intervention, but then they can also do long-term planning with kids. Thank you.
Thank you. And Erin, mental health has been a major topic in our media of late. How do you propose to address the challenge in our schools?
Thanks to the community's support of the override in 2021, the Shrewsbury Public Schools budget recommendation for next year is allowing for significant investment in addressing students' mental health issues. The budget seeks to add 2 additional adjustment counselors at the high school, an adjustment counselor at the middle school level, 2 additional clinical coordinator positions across the district, and a social worker to coordinate with outside social service agencies. Additionally, the proposed budget establishes the position of Director of Clinical Counseling and Mental Health Services, which will be extremely valuable because this position will coordinate the district's team of adjustment counselors, school psychologists, and clinical coordinators, and to be a primary connection with outside mental health providers. I strongly support these proposed staffing additions as mental health and behavioral needs have grown since the pandemic. Educating the whole child involves strong educational services and ensuring their social and emotional needs are met. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, question 4. We're going to start with Jen. I'm going to read this in a little different order. Okay. Shrewsbury is a diverse community consisting of vegetarians, people from all over. Should there be plans on how to make school lunches more diverse?
Absolutely. I am a vegetarian myself, actually, and I think that it would be great for kids to have access to really nutritious foods. I think that, when kids go to school, as parents, we try to provide as much as we can for our kids. But sometimes, we don't have time to make them their lunches and the things that they may need to go to school. And I feel that although there has been some work done to make school lunches healthier, I feel like there do need to be more options because there could very well be children that don't eat meat or that eat different things. Maybe we have a lot of allergies today too, and the schools are very good about addressing that. But I do feel like there needs to be more of a variety. If you look at other countries around the world, their school lunches are far healthier and actually include more vegetables, more protein, and much more than schools in America. Oftentimes our foods are pizza and chicken nuggets and maybe sandwiches, whereas you go to other countries like Spain, France, all sorts of different countries around the world, their primary meal is a piece of grilled protein with several vegetable choices and not the chips and such. So I do feel that we need to do a little better job of that because, food is fuel for our body, and our kids are not going to be able to learn how they need to learn if they're eating a lot of processed foods with food dyes and all those things that are really causing a challenge with behaviors in the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question to Erin. As Shrewsbury is a diverse community, including vegetarians and people from all over, should there be plans to make school lunches more diverse?
For the past 2 years, the federal government has provided free lunch and free breakfast, I believe, to all students, which has been a great benefit to all people and all students in the community, especially students with food security issues. I would continue to support and advocate for if this federal program could continue. I think that would be a benefit to all students in the community, and I believe that plans to make lunches more diverse, and I believe that lunches currently are offering different options to all students, but I would be supportive of making sure that vegetarians and people that have different allergies and different needs would be able to obtain lunches that meet their needs.
Thank you. And Lindsay, Shrewsbury is a diverse community, including vegetarians and people from all over. Should there be plans to make school lunches more diverse?
Certainly. Ensuring that kids can adequately have a meal that fits their needs is important. I wouldn't second guess that in any way. School lunches are provided at Coolidge, Oak, and Sherwood, and of course at the high school, as those communities have a sufficient number of kids who receive free and reduced lunch. The program, our lunch program, is largely funded through the federal government, as Erin mentioned, we have not been taking applications for free and reduced lunch for the last 2 years because the federal government has fully subsidized lunches. That's wonderful. I don't actually expect that's going to continue, and that's going to come back to the families in Shrewsbury. So should you not qualify for free and reduced lunch, then particularly at the high school, there are options for one to pay for them. Do we think those costs are the right cost? Do we think we're providing the right foods? I'm not sure how much of that rises to the level of a school committee in order to address, but I think ensuring that we have a wide variety is important for the school administration. And I would also just point out that those lunches and the fees that are that we collect when students want juices or yogurts or other things, they pay for our cafeteria staff. For those who were watching during the pandemic, we had difficult choices to make when lunch rooms were closed, whether we were going to keep that staff on, because those fees directly cover that service. And so I'm the first one to say we don't like fees, but our fees do cover certain things, and so every time we say we want some things to be free, I think we have to be realistic with the community and say, how will we pay for that, and then how are we going to make that happen? Certainly, I want my kids and all kids to eat nutritious foods, and so that should be important to everybody in this community.
Thank you. All right, we've reached the end of the Q&A period. Each of the candidates is now going to have an opportunity to give a 1-minute closing statement. Because of the turning of the order, we will be starting with Erin Boucher.
The school committee's 3 key areas of oversight are policy, budget, and the performance of the superintendent. I believe that my professional background as an attorney and my volunteer experience as both a town meeting member, a member of the Beale School Building Committee, and in various roles in the Shrewsbury Public Schools would allow me to make an immediate positive contribution to the school committee. The work of a school committee member involves negotiating union contracts, analyzing complex budget formulas and state mandates, resolving disputes, and evaluating complicated issues from all perspectives. These are all skills that I've honed through my professional training as an attorney over the past 27 years. I am not seeking this position to further a political or social agenda. I'm not a social activist or a politician. I'm a parent who is pleased with the education my children are receiving in the Shrewsbury Public Schools, and I want to give back to the community that I proudly call home. I would like to continue to provide stability to the school committee and continue to keep the focus first and foremost on providing all students of Shrewsbury with a world-class education that sets them on a course to realize their full potential. I respectfully ask for your vote on Tuesday, May 3rd.
Thank you. Lindsay Heffernan.
I want to thank you again for the time and for those of you who stuck around for this event and engaging with what's happening at the local level. I'm running for re-election because I want to ensure that our schools stay high quality. I want that for my kids, I want that for your kids, and I want that for our property values across the town. School committee now has become complex. We have a $79 million budget. We have a school administration that I have profound respect for that have done Herculean jobs during the last couple years of the pandemic. And our school committee is responsible for overseeing policy levels and policy issues for the schools. And there are three that I think are important for us as we move forward. First, as I mentioned at my outset, maintaining a focus on assisting students through our very valued staff to make up the educational losses that were suffered during the COVID pandemic. There's no question that there was learning loss as a result of COVID-19, and remote learning was undeniably a challenge for any parent that went through it. Some students were lucky enough to have parents or other adults who were able to assist them with remote learning, and however, many did not, and unfortunately suffered significant declines. Our school system must work to provide extra assistance, both to those who lacked academic support and lost educational ground, and also to those students facing emotional challenges brought on by this pandemic. Second, I think that we need to continue to look at ways to improve culture in our schools and ensure that all feel welcome. My style is to learn deeply about an issue and work collaboratively to bring about change. I think I demonstrated that when working with the town's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force. We were lucky to be in a school system where we have gifted administrators and teachers, but we needed to listen to the community and understand what concerns that they were raising. I think that together we can work about creating solutions to some of these challenging problems, but I also think we must look at the data, and that is critical to assess where we are today and where we are going to go, because we will always need to evolve. And lastly, as I mentioned, we know we need to address the mental health issues in our community. Our schools can support children by offering in-school counselors, supportive teachers, and professionals that can communicate with parents. But those services also we need to make sure are in accessible formats for everybody. So our schools have a responsibility to assess, to connect to services, and then to provide supportive services in the classroom and in the school setting. And I think we have, I'm well positioned to understand those challenges, and I would welcome your vote on May 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Jen Luke.
Thank you all again for coming tonight. I feel that my history of being in the mental health field for the past 25 years, as well as all the volunteer work that I have done in this community, makes me a great candidate for a school committee. I have not only, been PTO president and know the needs of the schools and of the students, but I also volunteered in my children's classrooms every single week for about 4 or 5 years. So I got to know the staff at the schools, and I got to know the challenges that the children were facing. And I would love to take the knowledge that I have of loving my community so very much and being invested in the school system and my knowledge of mental health and being able to use that at the school committee level. I am very invested in this community with many of the things that have happened over the years, and I feel that mental health is one of the biggest challenges that we are facing today. And due to that and my expertise in that field and being able to help with some of those challenges is going to be a great benefit. And sorry. I would really like the opportunity of being able to serve on the school committee, as I have done in so many other capacities in this town, and being able to take the knowledge of what I've learned and be able to use that and continue to have our kids get the amazing education that my children have been able to benefit for the many years that they've been here. And I'm extremely invested, still having kids in the school system for many years, and I would love to continue to be part of this great community that really does make sure that our kids get the education that they need. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That concludes our school committee candidates forum. Could I have some applause for the candidates? Kathleen will come up here.
I want to thank especially our moderator, Joshua Smith, for doing a terrific job for us tonight. Really, I think Barry is lucky to have him, yeah. And I want to thank the candidates for the Board of Selectmen and the school committee for a terrific job. They were very respectful of the questions and the audience here. In addition to these offices, on Election Day, you're going to be voting for Housing Authority, trustees of the Public Library, and for town meeting members. So the League of Women Voters members organizing the forum today are Karen Nelson, Colleen Colbert, Jason Molina, and I'm Kathleen M. Cohane. Election Day is Tuesday, May 3rd, and the polls are open from 7 to 8 p.m. I want to thank also the Shrewsbury Media Connection, and thank you all, and good night. Yeah.